Hi, I'm cKnoor, and I've still got the flu, but this is still episode 4 of my Beginner's Guide to Blood Bowl. This is going to be a bit of a more mellow episode, and by that I mean I'm going to show you some examples of pass plays. Once with a human team, and then with my probably all-time favorite pass team, the Pro Elves, and I'll try and explain how they both work. It's not going to be a complete guide in any sense of the word, but hopefully you can pick up some pointers and learn something along the way, because learning is awesome. Yay! No, not well. Still got the flu. Very coughy. But before we do anything else, we need to take care of some other business related to skills. If you've seen any of my videos, you might have seen some pop-up boxes asking me if I want to use a specific skill. And if you've played Blood Bowl Chaos Edition, you might not have had those pop-up boxes. And that's because my skill option presets, or whatever they're called, might be different from yours. So let's set that up, shall we? We need to go into extras and settings, and then go into options. And you've got a bunch of options here that most of them aren't that important. Optional skill presets are, though. Okay, so I'm gonna go through all of these because they're important. Accurate for passing, always have that on and enabled. Same with block, there's really no reason not to. Yes to break tackle, because it only procs if you fail your dodge on agility, so it's useful. Same thing with catch, claw, yes. Dauntless, I have it on enabled, and I don't ask because doesn't seem to be any use for it. Diving tackle, should ask on that one. Dump off, definitely ask. Oops, I have no idea why. Oh, how this works. Really, I just care about ask. I have ask on fend. Fend allows you to not have whoever's blocking you follow up. Sometimes you might want to if it's frenzy trap or something like that, so I keep it on ask. Let's see, grab, no, I'm always going to use that. I'm always going to use guard. Hail Mary pass, you definitely want that on ask, because, you know, horn, no, we don't need to ask about that. Juggernaut, yes, because there are times where you actually want to use a both down even though you don't have block, if the other person doesn't have block, and perhaps he's holding onto the ball or something, so it's useful to have that on ask. Kickoff return. Here's something. You want kick to be ask, but you can't in Cyanide for some reason. And I have no clue why. It's supposed to be optional. It's just that no matter how much you click this X, it won't change. Like, what's even the point? It's very confusing. Let's see, do we have anything else here? Yes, you want to ask on multiple block, because sometimes you don't want a multiple block. Pass is also good to ask, because sometimes it's more important to actually be able to throw the ball down. Remember that if you roll a 1, or the result of the die is a 1, it's going to fumble around your thrower. So if you actually just fail a pass by 1, and you really want to get rid of the ball, it might actually be better to not re-roll that pass. So I have that on ask. Same with piling on, you don't always want to pile on. Prehensive tail, on the other hand, though, you always want to use that. And pro, yes. Safe throw, always on. Shadowing, probably want to ask about that. Stand firm, another good skill that sometimes maybe you don't want to stay put. It also trips up your opponent from time to time when they're expecting you to stand firm. If you back up, they're going to have to decide what to do. Let's see here. Don't think there's anything else really. Oh well, except wrestle. Sometimes you don't want to wrestle. And those are the optional skill presets. These are the ones I use, and honestly, I don't know why you wouldn't have it set the way I do. Maybe you want to have even more set to ask, which is certainly a possibility. But at least have it set like that, and you should be decently set. And that's how optional skill presets work. So we covered cage playing, we covered a bit of cage busting. I think it's time to cover the other more prominent of the Blood Bowl strategies, and that's pass play. I am going to try and show you guys how to do a 2-turn touchdown with the human team and basing that on a pass play. Now, as with everything else in Blood Bowl, this is not going to look the same when you try and do it. What I'm trying to convey is the general idea rather than this is how you do it, because every game is going to be different. But I'm gonna try, once I get into game, and explain my reasoning as to why I'm doing things and what my plan is. I'm gonna try and do this with the human team because I figured doing it with an elf team that has plus agility kind of, well, it wouldn't be fair now, would it? It would be a bit too easy, and since this is my opponent, I'm gonna use one of, okay, let's try that one. Now, of course, I don't advocate you using preset setups, but what I want to try and do here is I only have one catcher, but that catcher has pretty high movement, so I'm gonna try and make a hole here and put the catcher, like, right here, so he's kind of safe, so that I next turn can just get in there and, well, punch the shit out of him, basically. But I still want some, so my thrower's going to hold on to the ball until it's time. Because it's safer that way. Now, he can't really reach me. Well, depends on where the kick is, but since I'm kicking, I'm going to kick it straight in the middle. And that was... okay, so that was excellent for me, because now this happens. And I don't have to waste my blitz. So, tricky situation for the ball. I do really want to cover that ball, since we're dealing with high elves here. So I'm gonna waste, air quote, one of my blitzers to cover the ball. Okay, so that's a great start for me, because I cleared all of these guys up. There we go. Lucky. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to put the catcher into scoring position, and the catcher has 8 movement. So I'm going to count backwards from over here, so I know how far I have to move him up. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he needs to be over here to do without any GFIs. I would prefer to have him here because it seems easier. So we are going to try and do that. Now, these guys are Cyanide's own pre-made players. So I'm trying to not care too much about the fact that he had plus strength and whatnot. And just play him like I would play anyone else. Okay, so we are going to build a massive cage way, way, way up here. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want the catcher to be in scoring position next turn, but I want him to be safe. So the high elves will have to decide what to do, really. Like, do they try and go for my blitzer and my lineman, which are also in a pinch are able to score. The ogre, of course, isn't. But when would you score with an ogre anyway? Okay, so let's see if we can pick this up. Please pick that up. Thank you. I am out of movement and I don't have a reroll, so I'm not going to move him. I feel like he's kind of safe still. So let's end our turn here. It's a good start. Now, as a high elf coach, I have a decision to make. I need to decide on, do I try and block this cage here? Do I try and clog it up? And, I mean, we're high elves, so we're not going to win a Bashi war anyways. Or do I try and go for the thrower, who's still kind of protected? Luckily, I at least have enough movement on my guys to blitz this guy down. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to move... Let's see, I'm going to move this guy around over here, because he's got pass block. Which, of course, most teams wouldn't have, but I'm still trying to played this like I would. As you can see here, I'm having a bit of a problem here because I don't have enough players to clog up this cage properly. Which is pretty bad news for me, and I do want to follow up. Because I can't really get into the cage like as well as I want to. I'm gonna try and blitz this blitzer down. Unfortunately, I don't have any cool skills. That's cool enough though. Let's see, is there anywhere else I want to go? Yes, I want to go like this. So now at least the thrower can't get out, but I've moved like all my players around here. So we're gonna see. Okay, so our options here are pretty easy. We want to run up here and probably pass to the catcher. If we can make it all the way up here, it's going to be a 4+ with a reroll, and that's almost guaranteed. It's not guaranteed at all, but it's close enough. So before we do anything, because we need to blitz this catcher off, of course, so we're going to make sure that we can get through, because the catcher needs to have a straight path to run down. Luckily, now I'm going to disregard the fact that he's got strength 4. We're going to pretend he's got strength 3. But this ogre is actually free here because I couldn't get around with the lineman. Or I could have based him, but it wouldn't have. I felt it wasn't good enough. So I'm going to move him up here, so we can then get a block here and a block here whenever the catcher wants. Now this is, please note that this is still pretty risky business, especially when that happens. Like, doing a pass play is almost always riskier than just scrolling down the pitch. But sometimes, like, you need to score quickly, and if you want to do it reliably, this is a good way to do that. Now, we got a bit lucky here. Lucky was perhaps not the right word. A push wouldn't have been great, because I would have dodged out. Luckily, we got both down. So, we freed up our... we freed up our thrower, so we can now safely run over here and do the catch. Had this been a... so wouldn't have mattered even if I did 2 GFIs. I could go here and it would have been a quick pass, but then I'd be in a tackle zone, so I'm not going to do that. So instead, I'm not going to run through a tackle zone either. I am going to get over here and see if I can chuck this to the catcher. But I really want this pass to go through, which of course it didn't. So, that's the inherent risk of doing pass plays. Okay, so I've I've shown you the basic concept of how to actually do a 2-turn touchdown pass play with a human team. Even though we failed horribly in the end because our stinking catcher didn't catch the ball, I thought I'd also give you an opportunity to see how you would do it with a Pro Elf team, because they are very different. Where on a human team, you usually kind of want to protect the catcher or stay a bit further back. With a Pro Elf team, the opposite is kind of true. Rather than trying to keep your catcher safe, you, as a Pro Elf coach, want to put as many freaking catchers down the field as possible, that way making the opponent unsure what player to blitz. The reason this works for a Pro Elf team and not a, say, human team is, first of all, Pro Elf teams have higher agility. They've got agility 4 rather than agility 3, but more importantly, their catchers have nerves of steel, so they actually disregard tackle zones when they're catching the ball. Now, unfortunately, or rather I've tried to do this game like 3 times already, but BloodBowl and Nuffle haven't really been playing ball with me so far. So we'll see how lucky/unlucky I get. Like, a perfect defense, in this case, would definitely ruin all my chances to move anywhere. I'm not going to reposition my players, of course, because that would kind of stop me from doing what I want to do. So first of all, we're going to try and cover the ball a bit. We're not going to pick it up straight away, because we're going to run these catchers down the field first. Now, the human team have put their players really deep, so I'm going to have to do a really long pass if I want to do a pass play, or as you'll see, I can do something else, but we'll cover that in a bit. I'm going to keep trying to get my catchers down the field here. I'm going to risk a dodge. It's just a 2+ dodge, which of course we fail. Let's see if the reroll works. Whew. Okay, so we have our catchers down the field. It would be lovely if we could get some more people down there, so we are going to try that. And I am going to put this lineman here to block this assist, because I apparently am not paying attention. And I'm going to follow up so we don't have to deal with that tackle zone. And then I'm going to put the blitzer in the middle. The reason I do this is try and stop a bit of movement around this side. They can either decide to go back rather than around. And I am going to move this blitzer over here to block this blitzer from reaching, kind of. And we'll see how far can they get. Okay, so they can get to this thrower here. But I'm going to use this thrower to pick it up. And we're going to move over here. Or we would have. Such a good pass play tutorial, this. Okay, so now we're the human team, so what do? Well, we try and cover the catchers as much as possible. What you want to do, really, if you want to make an effective cage against the Pro Elf catcher, you have to put one on either side. So there are 2 tackles. I have to dodge out through at least 1 tackle. So this guy is kind of denied from being in scoring range now. Let's see what happens over here. Luckily for me, all of my players here are actually in scoring range, even the blitzer. So I'm going to have to cover him as well somehow. But first of all, we're going to see... Yes, I do have enough movement to move around, which is great. And let's disregard the fact that that guy's got strength plus strength again. Now I'm going to have to... Now, granted, the ball is over here, so it's probably going to be unlikely that the pass is to this catcher because he's the furthest away. So instead, I'm going to try and knock this catcher down. Which worked out great. And now we have this thrower here. And this guy here. So we have, right now, effectively, very effectively actually, stopped the Pro Elf team from scoring next turn. Unfortunately, we've also very effectively stopped our chances at getting at the ball. So we're going to see if we can run this ogre down here, which is definitely a risky play, and not really worth it. And he boneheaded. So that is not something we want. So... Guess we're going to end our turn, actually. Now, luckily, or rather unluckily, for the human team, even though I am very well boxed in here, my players have enough movement that they can actually dodge out and run in and score. And this guy is closest to the end zone. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to try and remove this guy over here somehow. And we are going to... do that by... How are we going to do that? It's a good question. Thank you. That's why I asked it. Now, part of me wants to pick this up and then do a handoff to show that. So I think I'm going to do that. For teams that aren't that great at passing, it's a blessing in disguise. Remember that you can only do 1 pass action a turn. But you can also do... Wow. But you can also do one handoff. So, in this case, now, remember that I'm totally out of rerolls here. So as soon as I roll a 1, I'm going to fail, but we're going to pretend that I don't and just keep on going. Now the reason, see, the safest thing to do here would do a short pass, which I'm going to do, because that's a 2+ and then a 2+. Excellent. Fancy. And now the blitzer here has the ball. And he can still do a handoff. And the catcher, since he's got nerves of steel, still don't care about freaking tackle zones. And now we actually have an extra player down here. Now, I could have probably, since I was a pro, I could have just chucked it with the thrower, actually, and probably would have made it. It would have been a bit riskier, but it would have been 1 die. And we'll see how that goes. And that's how a 2-turn touchdown is supposed to work if you're a high agility team that don't care about tackle zones. So essentially pro elves. But pass plays essentially means that you want to spread your team out as much as possible so the opponent has to use its mobility to cover all your guys. If you're faster than your opponent, it's probably a good idea. You could definitely see on the second turn that I was free to roam wherever I wanted in the backfield and I could go wherever I wanted. And that was even after the human team had tried their very best to cover up the pro elves. If we go back and look again at what happened to the human team, we had a bit of a different tactic as we tried to protect the catchers, since those catchers don't have nerves of steel and are actually very vulnerable to tackle zones. If we had had more catchers on the human team, we could have done something similar where we spread our players out and then we dodged away before we did the catch, which is also very possible. But I think we've done enough pass play for one episode, haven't we? This has dragged on forever, probably. But that's kind of how you want to do a pass play. I'm not sure if it's been that educational, but hopefully you got something out of it, because I know I did, and that's a sore throat. So I'm going to go back to having the flu now, and I'll see you in a week or 2. Actually, I'll see you on Friday, right? Because we're streaming then, so see you on Friday. Hugs and kisses, everyone.